Hey guys, welcome into the video. On today's video, I'm going to talk about the 4Ds of domestic discipline, what they are, how we incorporated the 4Ds into how we set up our rules and expectations, and why we've started to go beyond them. But before we get started, if you like these videos, please give this video a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think down below, and subscribe if you're not already. All those things really do help out the channel here on YouTube, but if you want to help support us even further, help us continue to do what we do here, the best place to do that is over on Patreon. With your Patreon membership, you get access to Patreon exclusive bonus content as well as access to our Discord server. So definitely check it out if you're interested. So the 4Ds of domestic discipline. If you are starting to research domestic discipline, it is very, very likely that you have come across the 4Ds. And what they are is disrespect, disobedience, dishonesty, and danger. These are really good kind of core principles of domestic discipline, and this is where most people start when they start thinking about how to implement rules, expectations, and boundaries within their relationships. There should be expectations around respect and obedience. There definitely should be an expectation of honesty, and there should be an expectation of maintaining a level of measured safety. Those are all really, really good things, and I definitely have rules even now that fall into all of these categories. They really are at the center of your relationship, the make or break. If you don't have respect, obedience, and honesty especially, your relationship is bound to run into trouble. There has to be expectations around these things. And especially, I know that CODA really does regard respect and obedience and honesty really as like our core main foundation, right? If we don't have those things intact, everything else will fall apart. And we really don't focus on anything if those things are suffering. We always try to get to the root of whatever is happening. If we are seeing, if we're going through a rough patch, if we are seeing issues arise in our relationship, we really try to get to the root of it. And this really is where those roots lie. This is really at the center of our relationship, what we stand on. And so these really are good concepts to implement into your relationship. So what does that look like when you are setting up rules and expectations? Well, obviously there needs to be a discussion about what it looks like to express respect in your relationship. There are some couples who have an expectation of certain verbiage, certain wording, an expectation that the taken in hand will respond with yes sir or no sir, even in everyday situations. Sometimes that expectation is only held during disciplinary action. Sometimes it is an expectation that it extends into everyday interactions. So you really have to have a discussion about what does respect look like, and on the flip side, what does disrespect look like, and is there a middle ground? Is there a neutral area there where maybe it's subjective and maybe it's up to the head of household to decide in those moments whether or not that neutral territory is something that is venturing into disrespect or not. For CODA and I, we tend to not live in neutral territory. We tend to not like having questionable things. We like to have everything very, very defined. And so we don't have a neutral territory. We have this is respectful, this is disrespectful, there's no in between. If I'm not showing respect, then I am showing disrespect. And so that is the way we've set it up, but that's because we have a really high expectation, and I thrive with high standards and high expectations, and so having everything very, very defined works really, really well for me. And so we've discussed what that looks like. Also, what does obedience look like? What does disobedience look like? You have to have these conversations, and you have to set all of these things up. Every relationship is going to look different because the head of household really does need to set the tone. He leads this relationship, and he should lead the process of setting the rules and standards and the expectations in the relationship. And that really does go for this process. And so you really do need to have those discussions about what is expected obedience. Is it immediate? Is it within a certain time frame? What does that look like, and how does that practically play out with the unique circumstances of your relationship? Also, honesty. What's the expectation there? I know for Coda and I'm expected to be honest to the point where I bring things to him. Withholding information is considered dishonest. Not giving him all the information would be considered dishonest. He wants me coming to him, and obviously if he asks me questions, I'm expected to be as honest as I possibly can be and give him all the information that I have. And so there is an expectation there, and so you just have to decide, what does that look like in your relationship, and how does that play out, and what is the expectation as far as, giving information and communicating. Communication definitely falls into the honesty category because, in my opinion, communication is part of being honest with your head of household, being honest with where you are, how you're feeling, what you need. That's all part of good communication, and so that is part of honesty. And obviously, danger, maintaining a measured level of safety. Life is not without risks. There is risk in everything we do, but there are things that we can do to keep ourselves safe, and there are things that create more risk. And so you want to look at your life, look at what you are doing and what you need to do and what you need to accomplish, and decide what does it look like to keep yourself safe. I know that Coda will have me text him my location just so that he knows where I'm at during the day if I am out and about running errands. He wants to know, where I'm at, which stores I'm at, just so that he can make sure that I am safe throughout the day. Also, there's other things that he has me do that are explicitly there to maintain safety. And so you have to look at what does that look like for you? Because again, every relationship is going to be different. Every relationship is going to have different circumstances. But what we were finding as we were going along, because we started with this concept, right? And as we were going along, these rules and expectations, as good as they were, they felt limiting. Because there's only so far that you can go. There's only so much that you can do. You can always raise the standard. You can always get more strict. But to set new standards, you really do need to potentially look outside the 4Ds. And that's what we've started doing, especially this last year. Coda has really started to lean into looking at his preferences and really looking at his role as not only managing me as his wife, as his taken in hand, but really managing our household and our relationship. Obviously, there is an element of expectation that is placed on me. He wants to help me become the best version of myself. He wants to shape my character. He wants to help me grow and develop as a person. And that is all great. There is that aspect of our relationship, but we've really started to venture out to where that's not the only aspect of our relationship anymore. He really wants to take really an active role in leading our household. And it's in the name, right? Head of household. But I think that so many times we look at this as a relationship dynamic and not a lifestyle dynamic. And so we've really started to look at how we are structuring our relationship as more of a lifestyle dynamic, and really Coda taking leadership beyond our relationship and really taking leadership and management of the household. And so we've looked at the 4Ds and we've realized that they do limit his ability to express preference and to really implement his unique leadership style into our relationship and into our home. And technically, you could put just about anything under the sun into the obedience category. And so if you really wanted to look at it from that standpoint, you wouldn't necessarily have to go beyond the 4Ds. But there are things that we just felt like did not fit into the 4Ds of domestic discipline that we wanted to implement into our relationship. And so what does that mean and what does that look like? It means that Coda is looking at how our relationship not only serves me, not only helps me become the best version of myself, but also helps him develop as a head of household and helps him develop the level of responsibility that he wants to have, and also how he can lead our home to his preference. It's kind of a hard concept to think about. What does that look like? Does that mean that he just gets whatever he wants? No, not necessarily. It means that he understands that he has a responsibility to lead our household in a way that takes care of everyone in our household. And sometimes that means that he gets what he wants. Sometimes that means that he sacrifices what he wants because ultimately that's what's better for everyone. And so it's not that he gets to be egocentric or selfish in our relationship or in our home, but it means that if he wants dinner at a certain time, that he has the ability to express that and to make it an expectation and to hold me accountable to making that happen. You know, there's certain elements of just how our home functions that he's taking more ownership over. Before we started domestic discipline, I had been a stay-at-home spouse, a stay-at-home mom for about 10 years before we really dived into domestic discipline. I had gotten really, really good at managing and maintaining our household and making sure that everything functioned really well. And so when we started domestic discipline, it's not that he didn't feel like he had ownership over our home and that he couldn't express his preferences in that. He just didn't necessarily really explore what his preferences were. And so as we've gone through this, as we have developed our rules and expectations and what that looks like and how that has really helped our relationship and helped us become closer, helped us become more connected, he has started to look at how his preferences and how his leadership can serve our home and how it really does create a lifestyle of structure. This might be a concept that a lot of people don't need to think through, but I think that some people, this is kind of a struggle. This is something that you don't necessarily think of when you think of domestic discipline, because most of the time we think of the relationship aspect. We think of, the head of household imposing rules on the taken in hand, but we don't think of the everyday little things that a head of household really is responsible to manage the household. And so that's why we've kind of been on this journey of thinking outside the box of the 4Ds of domestic discipline so that we can really start to think about how our relationship is not only serving us, not only creating more connection, not only creating more structure between us, but how it is really extending into our home, into our family dynamic, into everything we do in order to create more structure, more order, and to place Coda really in that leadership role in every aspect of our lives, of our relationship, of our home, of everything, right? And how he is bringing his unique leadership style into our relationship and in our home so that he can start to implement his preferences and really start to raise the standard according to what he wants and what he needs from our relationship as well. I think that sometimes we get so caught up in how domestic discipline serves the taken in hand that we don't necessarily think about how a head of household needs the rules and structures to serve them, and how they really do need to lead from a place that is honoring their leadership. I don't know if that is your perspective. I definitely think that there is this misconception that domestic discipline is very, head of household centric and that he just gets to do whatever he wants, and that is not the case. My impression definitely is that it is more centered around what the taken in hand needs and centered around helping her develop her character. And so it's just one of those things that as we have grown in our relationship, we want to make sure that we're both getting our needs met and we are both making sure that our relationship serves each of us in the ways that we need it to. And that's really what we've been kind of looking at when setting up the expectations and the rules. So I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you got something out of it, and we will talk to you next time.